Hello, everyone. Today we are Huiyi, who is the founder and chief insights officer with Asymmetrics Research, on our chat with alumni. So, Huiyi, could you please introduce yourself to the alumni?
Hi, thank you very much for inviting me to be on this chat and interview. So my name is Huiyi, and I was in economics School of Faculty of Arts and Social Science from year 1999 to 2003, and I did a double major in economics and mathematics. And after my graduation from NUS, I went on to work in the public service. I was at the Ministry of Trade Industry, where I was at for 5 years. And after that, I moved to Beijing in China. I did an MBA at Tsinghua MIT, and then I went into market research. So altogether, about 15 years of experience across public and private sector.
Wow. You have a very interesting journey after graduating with economics from NUS. Do share how has it shaped your career, as well as moving to China to further your journey?
Right. Well, I think NUS economics was really my foundational years in trying to understand, both at the macro level, what's happening, how our economy is structured, how do economic policies get shaped, and what do they impact, and to the micro level on, at different as different factors of the economy, whether it's a business, individuals, household, how do we all interplay, and what are the roles that we have, and also how is the marketplace shaped. So I think those were really foundational knowledge for me that I gathered during my NUS days, including topics like FTAs, during then trade, international trade policy was also very interesting and eye-opening for me as an undergraduate. So when I went into public policy, I was trying to also piece together how then that all those would actually impact when we do public policy, whether for me, I was working on entrepreneurship and small and medium enterprise SME development policies, and later on also trade relations with other countries. So those really helped me to anchor a certain basic understanding from which then also I did further research kind of during my job itself to then piece together the bigger picture as I went along. And so I think it certainly opened my eyes and it laid the foundation for me to understand how things work and the different possibilities and potential for bigger experiences. And that, of course, also continued as I moved to China and in a very different market environment with different market structures and business environment. Then we are really seeing for China how things work in a very different way from what we were familiar with in Singapore. So I think altogether, it's more of the sense of the analytical frameworks and figuring out also who are the different stakeholders in different business environments.
Great to hear that. Can you share what are the experiences working in China, that's differences or similarities versus in Singapore?
Hmm. So China is definitely a very big market. I think usually what people would say is that China, yeah, it's 1.4 billion people, but you really can't see it as a whole market in itself. Of course, for certain services, you kind of take a national look at the market. But when it really comes down to delivering of those services and products, then it really needs a more granular view, understanding different provincial or regional levels of consumer acceptance, awareness, channel structure, rural versus urban city consumption patterns, and so on. So it's certainly a very big as well as diverse market. And that for me was the very interesting thing about China's market. The second thing is that also because changes happen very quickly and happen at a very large scale when they become successful. So really, keeping up with understanding trends, technology, and how that interrelates with consumer and business behavior is really exciting. When I first came in 2008, that was when the Olympics happened. And that was also the start of e-commerce in China. Very soon in 2009, 2010, I was started buying things on Taobao. And that was before the mobile payments started, right? Of course, after that, mobile payments and so on. So we could really see how these changes happened. Were part of the change itself, and once these took off, suddenly boom, across tier 1 cities, you saw it happening, then tier 2, tier 3, and then it really accelerated. So I think that pace and scale of change is also amazing.
Wow, yeah, I'm sure. The pace and the scale of China versus Singapore is way so much and all that. Yeah. I see you also have started the Poverty Line project and a speaker in many economics and social topics. Can you share how has your economic studies or your experiences influenced that?
Sure. I think I've always been very interested in socioeconomic development, and I chose to study economics because of that. In my mind, public policy is always a very important role to play in ensuring equity and ensuring sustainable development, and certainly in making sure that the social fabric remains stable. So I think the study of economics really helped me to lay the ground frameworks for understanding that. When I started doing the Poverty Line project with my partner, who's also my husband, who is a photographer, Stefan, we looked at this issue in different ways. For me, from an economics perspective, from a public policy perspective, I wanted to understand how policies regarding poverty alleviation, definition of poverty, who gets access, who gets help, are made, and what do they translate to for different countries. Then I started researching on how is poverty defined in the absolute terms and in the relative terms. We have absolute poverty, which is a survival level. We also have relative poverty, which is really also more of a measure of inequality and the income gap of society. So these issues really piqued my interest in trying to see how we bring a complex topic like that to be more easily understandable and relatable to a wider audience. And that's why we chose a visual medium through photography, through art, to try to have a broader platform for conversations to happen. Because very often when policies are made and implemented, the way that it's done or the focus of it is really on a macro view and also, of course, impacting people on the ground. But how it is communicated, there's often a gap because too much statistics or reports really get lost in understanding the impact to people on the ground. So we were using art. I think we found a way for art to become a bridge to bridge that gap of communication and understanding.
Good to hear that. Yeah, sometimes all this statistics and numbers very hard for people to see and vision, but visual pictures will paint a better picture, a better storytelling for people to understand better. We're happy to hear that you started this with your husband and really put our economic in full use in the social sense.
Yeah, and actually, so one point was that we brought this project to present at the United Nations at the Bangkok Conference Center with UNESCAP, which is the economic social body for the United Nations in Asia Pacific. And we presented at a conference where there were ministers, policy makers and NGOs. And when they saw the project, they really understood, kind of the role that art could play and a platform that this kind of visual communication would build. In addition to the very hardcore policies that they were working on, this actually allowed for a wider audience to understand and engage with the topics. So we are really gratified that even at a platform like United Nations, the work could also find an audience and could also be seen to be useful to this area of development.
Great to hear that. Thank you very much, Huiyi, for your sharing. I wish you well in your projects.
Thank you very much, Valerie. Thank you, and all the best.